drank some water and went down the wrong pipe. Alright, good thing I have a strong immune system to release the demons if I have to cough out some water stuck in my windpipe. Alright, so obviously there's a lot to cover. I mean, so much. And my brain has been downloading so much. And yeah, that's what I was bred for. I figured out now, because there's ways to raise your kids to resist what you're doing, and then down the road later on, after they've experienced the world and they survive it, then they have something to come back to. They have a foundation to come back to. That was the strategy of my mother. Was that even though she gave me an amazing foundation, and it was pretty crazy relative to other people's foundations, I may have resisted it because that was meant to happen. And from that resistance came then the survivability. So if I could survive my family lifestyle and go into other wars and survive those wars, regardless if I brought it on myself or it found me, and I survived those wars, that one day in the future, when all the conditions are right, I would go back to whatever it is I came from. And I came from a very disciplined household, an adult-centered household. I came from the foundation of you respect your elders, you don't disrespect people, you're polite, you're considerate, you turn the handle when you close the door. You don't just close the door and be inconsiderate. You turn your phone down when you're in public. You thank people for when they give you gifts, presents, or open the door for you. That you do your chores first and you take care of business first before you have play and pleasure. That there's a time and place for everything, and now is not the time. If that's what you need to. That's what I've heard. There's a time and place for everything, and now is not the time. Okay, I get it. What else did I learn when I was a kid? Oh, reading. Lots of reading. Sitting by myself and thinking about the world. Being held accountable for any kind of wrongdoing, whether the situation was contrived or organic. So, yeah, being held accountable. Oh, yeah, everything that I learned as a child is now coming back at 50 years old, after surviving the fucked up wars out there in the population that I either brought on myself or they found me. And so that was the whole point of programming people back in the 80s. You saw some of them were programmed to be Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and develop that dynasty of sorts, or programming, football and stuff. And you saw other people trained to be movers and shakers in their industry, or told to have a bunch of kids to then be the worker bees, to work in the convenience stores, to work on the railroads, to work on the highways, work in the porn industry. Everyone has a place. Everyone has a role. Just like the royal family, everybody has a role. And so if you're lucky enough to get a role that was survivable, then potentially, if you had enough substance to you and enough intellectual capability, that you could actually switch roles later on when it's appropriate. Right now you're finding out. Right now you're finding out. People are realizing they are outliving their role. And then they will also succumb to the role that they were forced into as children. And so, when you're told to have a bunch of kids and you already have and you already, don't have enough really to you anyways, and you have a bunch of kids, that's a lot to come back from. People don't survive, especially this climate change, after having so many kids, and then the kids that they develop are not strong enough for the environment. They're breaking down. It's like whenever you make copies of something, eventually, the ink is going to run out. Then you got to go buy new ink. I mean, I think that's how I want to equate families and sexual reproduction, is when you use up all the ink in your cartridge. And so when you are on the reserves of your ink cartridge and you're seeing the lines and the ink is so light because there's not enough of it, it's not going to be a viable copy anymore. It's going to break down. You can't turn that into anyone or anything. You can't use it. You can't make copies from it because you can't even see it. It's broken down. And so, yeah. Oh my gosh. Let me write that down. Constant sexual reproduction on bodies in deficit is like using up the ink in your printer, and the last copy is so faded and indistinct, it is not usable at all, and you cannot even make a copy from that copy. It is done. So constant sexual reproduction on bodies in deficit is like using up the ink in your printer, and the last copy is so faded and indistinct it is not usable at all, and you cannot even make a copy from that copy. It is done. And so right now you're watching these kids who have been copies from their parents, and they are fading, just like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. When he couldn't get his parents together, or at least on that path, he started seeing himself fade away. He was like, oh my God, he has to get his parents together to then fulfill what his future would be. And so right now you're watching a lot of people making copies of themselves. Kids, and of course more disease because they're mixing in with people having sex and whatever else, diluting their own genetic line, that eventually those copies will be so indistinct that they will die suddenly. Or they will develop children who will not be able to handle the environment, and they grow up suffering until the system has to do something different. And so yeah, finally I'm seeing on my Facebook, people in California, not so much the Midwest, but people in California are succumbing to the environment. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, but remember, we're under all different types of energetic programming and frequencies. And I knew that was the case, that we weren't literally like competing on a level playing field. The system had to build up to a certain point. And so while those of us here in Ohio were subjected to certain frequencies and whatever else, other people in California and on the coast maybe were not subjected to such aggressive frequencies, but now it's a slow boil. And now even robust men in California are dropping like flies, which means then the children and the mothers who are vegan and vegetarian and on diets and on all these different remedies and protocols, homeschooling their kids, it's eventually the environment's going to take out the strongest and weakest person, all relative, to their situation. And so, hold on. And so I'm feeling so good this morning. I was up freaking early and no pain in my arms, no pain in my neck. I mean, I have a few highs on my back like I did the last couple of days after waking up to the arm pain and the wrist pain and the hand pain. And now no pain. It's crazy. And I didn't do anything to remedy it. I just released demons. I ate a bunch of food. Sometimes I had to take a nap. I'd write stuff. And I would release demons the way I have in my book. Because you must find a way to channel the energy and channel releasing demons and channel taking on demons through very organized pathways. And your alimentary canal from over here all the way down there is supposed to be an organized pathway and clear. But people have been nipped and tucked and had pathways redirected and even blood vessels cut off and redirected and stents and screws and operations and implants. And they're hosting cancer because of karma that they've invited into the world. And that's what, the other day, yesterday, when I was talking about karma, I had to be very careful how you pose that, because some people are vigilantes out there and they think they will be the karma to somebody else that they don't agree with. And you can't be a judge, jury, and executioner. So karma is not something that you legislate on somebody else. And for the life of me, I've tried to figure out how to talk about karma without implicating myself or somebody else to feel like they should do justice against Jillian because she caused everybody harm. And I'm telling you, no, I am not causing anyone harm. You've already caused harm to yourself. You've already inherited the harm. And it's just the system is what is activating whatever it is that you cannot deal with. And so, yes, the J juice was the energy that you were going to experience anyways. And now we're seeing hindsight's 2020. I may have had a sixth sense in knowing that the salt was what people were needing, even though it was going to activate their immune system. The salt was what people were missing. The salt, the sugar, eventually figured that out, that people were missing milk, meat, cheese, eggs, and all that. But that was an evolutionary process. But karma is something that you actively invite into your world. You attract the karma in your world. And so that's why I don't talk to anyone through private message. Occasionally people come through and saying this and that. And I do respond and then I cut it off immediately. I mean, I don't block them unless I feel that they're going to cross boundaries. But usually if I say hey, I don't do private message and then usually that it ends and then we just talk on Facebook. But yeah. I had to figure out a way to explain what karma is, and something that you invite. So that's why I don't talk to anyone. I don't entertain people, because you may not even know that you are developing a karma, but because you just say what you say and do what you do, and someone will take you however they want to take you, and they become the karma by their response to you. So when people say, oh, what comes around goes around, yeah, okay, but even more specifically, anytime you engage with somebody else and you purposely walk into their world and you purposely call them, you purposely message them, you purposely interact with them and go somewhere and you do what you do, instant karma is how people respond to you, regardless. And you may not even have the intention to be whatever. You've just walked into a world and people are going to respond to you based on how they perceive you. And so karma is something that you actively invite into your world. It's not something you legislate upon somebody else. And so when you finally realize that that's what people are dealing with, is the karma they've invited into their world. And that's their politics, that's their religion, that's their scientific dogmas, that's all their friends and family and their children, always trying to get ahead. What do you mean get ahead? Oh, developing another head. What do you mean? Oh, a baby, another head. Or bringing in somebody into your group of women or men. Your, what do you call it? Your subjects, because you're the king bee, the queen bee, and when the king bee and the queen bee cultivate an audience, they have to cultivate an audience to get ahead, or they off somebody's head. Everything is in the language. And so karma is something you actively invite into your world. When you go into the diet suddenly groups and you're recommending people get this, this, and that, and the people are dying suddenly, and of course they blame this, this, and that, you've actively invited karma to yourself because you're reacting angrily to whatever the outcome is. So whenever I'm angry, it's my own karma because I'm reacting to someone. And I'm their karma until somebody cuts off the communication. So you're not karma to each other. Because someone's mad at me, I'm their karma. I don't care what they're mad at me for. I don't even fucking know them. And if I'm mad at them, then they're my karma. And so who do I actually take on as far as karmic outcomes? My husband. We are each other's karma. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's annoying, but whatever. And so that's how you control the karmic reactions from the universe, is when you finally deal with the karma in your body, mind, and spirit without projecting that you'll be somebody's karma or they'll be their karma or you'll be their karma, whatever, And so I had to really carefully find a way to explain that. It's something you actively invite in your world. That's what karma is. And so when you realize that's how the world works, it's because you've injected yourself into people's lifestyles, into people's belief systems, into people's politics, religion, and science, looking for a savior and a Satan. And then what's the karma? How people respond to you. And you can characterize any way you want. And so then people are attracted to their karma and they hang out with their karma. And they get mad and they get happy and all that shit until they basically consume the karma in their world. And so what do? I just say stuff on my Facebook. I just say stuff on my Facebook and then I block what people perceive as what they think they're karma to me, and they think that I'm their karma to them, and I'm not playing that game. We can agree superficially. We don't need to kiss each other's ass. And we do what we do. We represent. And so, yeah. Some people are coming back from, the past, trying to figure out what to do with the JJs. I could never tell you that you could handle what I've dealt with the last few weeks. I'm telling you, man, the pain in the hand, where I was going like this yesterday when I'm watching Dexter, which is actually a good show, but I fast forward through all that gory stuff. But I'm gonna go like this, and I'm like massaging my own arms, because I'm like, fuck, it feels tight, right? But it's not tight, but I feel the energy. And also too, it's interesting when it was getting cold and I was feeling cold and I was feeling my blood vessels constrict. And I'm like, okay, let me turn the AC up or down, whatever that is. And so instead of it was 67 or 68, I put it up to 69. And I even took a nap and had some really crazy dreams from that nap. So things were developing. And I actually felt, I had some weird dreams. And I felt the fingernails of somebody. I don't know, man. I was feeling some kind of entity. And it was warm. It was warm. But somebody who was a lesser person probably would have died in that heat. But I was having dreams. And I was feeling fingernails of someone or something. It's really weird. And I forced myself to wake up. And I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, it's kind of hot in here. It's just fucking hot. But I felt that warmth. And it was nice to sleep in that warmth for a minute, but it was too hot. And so I put it back down to 68. And so it became cool again. And it was nice. And so I don't know if even changing that temperature brought up some demons. Like some succubus, some incubus, who knows? That I actually felt the fingernails. And that's some really crazy shit. But it wasn't so traumatizing or jolting that I was like, oh, I need to write about this. It was just something that was an experience, in passing, when two ships pass in the night. They're kind of silent, but not too influential. So it's not something that you have to go and post. But it was something that was interesting. And so when I woke up this morning at 2:33 o'clock, and I'm hearing noises in the house because, it's 64 degrees right now and it's 6:30. And here in the house, that also I turn on my TV, and so I can have the light illuminate the room because I'm sitting in darkness looking at my phone. I'm like, okay. And I had no pain. I wrote what I wrote this morning about something. Hell, I don't know what the hell I wrote. I wrote stuff this morning. And I'm like, it's just so weird not being in pain given how much pain I've been in the last fucking couple days. And so, yeah, when I say... that's right. I was watching Silicon Valley, Capital of Loneliness. I'm like, that's ironic because I was raised very much alone. I was raised pretty much alone and raised differently. And so I was not like my sister. I was not like my peers. I was not like anyone, really, for that matter. And so when I'm watching that YouTube video about Silicon Valley, the capital of loneliness, I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, it's kind of a homogenized atmosphere that everyone works by themselves, yeah, because you're on a computer in your nice house and you get takeout food, you get access to whatever, and everything's at your fingertips. And it's like, okay, so people are raised, not raised, they're working in industries by themselves. And so they're lonely. And so, yeah, thinking about mortality and immortality. Someone tried to message me. I don't know who it is, but I don't care. I don't play with messages. Anyways, and so mortal people have to work 5 days a week. They party for 2 days out of the week, and they go back to work. Sometimes they have kids, sometimes they don't. Immortal people know when to pull back. Immortal people know when to say, okay, quit when they're ahead. Immortal people maybe work half the week, if that's what they need to. And the other half, they cultivate another craft, another way to be. Mortal people raise children. Mortal people have to party. Mortal people are working so much so they can support their habits, their hobbies, their lifestyle and belief system, their politics, religion, and science. Mortal people don't really think about tomorrow. They're only concerned about today and getting justice for something. And so, you know, I'm thinking like, Silicon Valley, they engineer so many different types of people. And so when you've been engineered to engineer yourself at some point, that's a gift that will keep on giving, assuming you survive your society. And those who can't survive their society doesn't even matter. Those who can, you know, survive their society might have the ability to change and pull back and realize what's important. Is getting justice for some perceived slight, you know, is that more important than your life? Is pulling back and not working for all these hobbies that you really don't need because you still have to take care of your body and figure out how to survive all this? I mean, that's the thing right now. People are faced with the moment of truth, the day of reckoning. And some will succumb to whatever it is that was forced into them because they can't change. They are a major breadwinner or 50% breadwinner to a lifestyle that the one person in their world cannot do by themselves. That's why I did not want to obtain so much wealth. And I couldn't anyways. But yeah, when I was working at that insurance company selling life insurance, and I was doing okay, but my PMS kept kicking in and it was fucking sucking. But if I was consistent like my husband, and then we were making so much money together, we would die together. We would die together because we would develop a lifestyle that we'd be trapped into, to upholding, to sustaining. And when you have two people who are equally matched as far as earning power, they will get trapped and die in the trappings of wealth. The fact that I am who I am, and I knew that my husband, he has earning power. But like anything, you know, when people have earning power, they don't know when to stop until they reach their limit. You can only work so many hours. The system will only work so many hours. And so you have to live within your means, whatever that is. And if you go above your means, then you either bankrupt yourself or you'll die. And so I don't want to be contributing to that type of thing where my husband has no room to pull back if he needs to. If he chooses to keep going hard and strong because he wants all this stuff, fine. That's his choice. But I will not be a slave to anyone. I will not die for anyone. I will not die for friends and family. I will not die for politics, religion, or science. And so I know when to pull back. And I knew when to pull back. I knew this is not sustainable. I knew what people were doing out there, trying to work so hard for their friends and family and parties and lifestyle and addictions, was not sustainable. People are dying from that. They're dying for their politics. They're dying for all their activism. And so mortal people don't know when to stop. They need the government and the environment to actually regulate them. Immortal people know when the fuck to pull back. They listen to indicators and they don't blame anyone. They take personal accountability and they realize they actually cultivate their own karma. And so mortal people are actually children. We have 40-year-old children that have children right now. We have 50-year-old children out there raising children. That's why our society is so doomed right now, and that's why the system is doing a great reset. Because when you have children raising children, there's no way society is going to advance itself when you have children raising children who don't have the capability to pull back, who don't have the capability to regulate themselves, who go to excess in their drugs or alcohol, in their politics, religion, and science, looking for a savior, hunting for Satan, throwing scriptural darts at their friends and family and their society, and then say that they're kind people. It's a reflection of their soul. No, you're actually really unkind. And you surround yourself with people of your kind. And then you play the holier than thou bullshit. So, yeah, it's quite interesting watching society fool themselves into thinking they're better than each other. And wanting to keep, collecting children and animals and baubles and material wealth and experiences to the point of, just hoarding and glutton for everything. And then they get punished for it and they don't understand that they have to pay the piper. It's not just monetary transactions for whatever your lifestyle is. You also have to pay immunologically. And people are not prepared to pay immunologically. And so they get treated to death. And eventually the devil does take his due. And that's the died suddenly world. Okay? And so even though I have fallen into some of these activist stances of for and against, whatever, GMO, vaccines, whatever. No, it's people's choices that has caused them to die suddenly. Regardless, fertility is going to happen because you'll be exposed to people. But how much fertility that you cultivate through the remedies world, through sexuality, through hanging out with people in an influential environment, you're the one that makes these choices to go to these concerts, to go to these crowds, to have all these animals around you mixing microbes with you, causing, yes, a microbial fornication and a macrobial fornication like the P. Diddy stuff, getting screwed to death by somebody, or holding on to so much diversity that you get screwed to death microbially and then you don't survive energy conversion. You don't survive the treatments because someone has to keep carving out the life forms that you keep cultivating and fostering inside. And you can't pull back. You're afraid of air, food, and water. What's the system to do? They can't force you to feel pain and suffering. They can't force you to change your lifestyle and belief system. So what do they have to do? They have to change the environment. Who does? God. I didn't want to say, like the power elite, because what does that fucking mean anyways? Oh, the Illuminati. Do you realize that, again, when people have so many children, eventually those children will become adults who screw themselves out of existence and they become infertile. Sometimes the system must do things to preserve the human race and accelerate what people already accept anyways. If you already accept that you're going to die someday, the system is just giving you what you want already. Well, I don't want to die someday. Well, you already accepted it. If you don't want to die someday, then you're going to have to face pain and suffering and all food. And start questioning everything and stop cultivating the karma. But you will have to at some point because you have to face the karma within. And whatever's within is also a reflection of your community, of your friends and family and social gatherings. What you are cultivating inside, the karma inside, are the people you hang out with, the animals you hang out with, the friends and families you hang out with, the jobs that you do. That's your karma. You attract that. And so when I release the demons out of my body, and I'm slowly releasing the social expectations, releasing the need to be around people, the need for company, the need to feel validated or accepted. I don't need that anymore. Now it's just sitting and cultivating my brain and typing stuff and making an observation about my own world because there's nothing I could do to save anyone else. Believe me, I am not as influential as your friends and family and your politics, religion, and science. I'm not at all any competition to your hormones. Whatever one is at the surface that is driving your lifestyle and beliefs. There's no fucking way I compete with anybody in your world. So I just do what I do. And I make observations. And I am my own karma. And I cultivate no other karma except for my husband. And so we learn how to deal with each other's karma to each other. But that's why I don't talk to people through private message. That's why I don't cultivate close friends, because it's not close friends. It's just someone that you're using on both ends until somebody walks away because they've been depleted or they realize this is not a friendship. This is a transaction. Somebody is sucking the life out of somebody else. And maybe because it's temporary, because somebody needs something on either end, or one person is needy so much that they suck the life out of the other person. So the other person leaves, says, okay, I'm done. I can't, you'll suck the life out of me. And so those who have boundaries actually walk away from society and face themselves. Others that don't have boundaries will suck the life out of everyone around them who will allow them to do that. And that's why, again, I don't spend too much money. I don't expect my husband to do what I want him to do, whatever. No, he has so much freedom. And he's within a certain parameters of his marital contract. But I don't even let him take too much from my own microbes. Because again, some men will screw their wives to death. And some women think that's what they have to do to keep a man, is to be screwed to death by everyone. Literally and figuratively. And so they cultivate microbes and people to screw them to death. And that's why they have so many animals and children and friends and family. Because that's their karma. They invited that into their world. When you start releasing the demons within, you then start working by yourself. And you're alone more than not. And you're not trying to save the world because you know you can't. You're not trying to demonize anyone because it's not anyone else's fault except for your own. And you find a way to survive the climate change and the world that you live in. And if you're in a war-torn area, then find a way to get the hell out. And show America or Canada or the UK that you are a contributing member of society and you don't want to be in your war-torn area anymore. And you will find a way to contribute to whoever. And you have the smarts and you have the talent and you have the evolution to do that. So those are in Palestine or in Ukraine or any other war-torn country. If you have the ingenuity and the strategy to escape a really bad situation, you belong to America, the United Kingdom, to Canada, or wherever else. And then find a way to survive even that world. But the world here is so much better than being in Palestine. I wouldn't want to be in Palestine right now. But if you're smart enough to get the hell out of Palestine and go somewhere different where it's not as aggressive, good. I hope you survive that. If you're smart enough and strong enough to travel all the way down from the southernmost tip of South America all the way up to North America, and you find a way in, and you can make a name for yourself and make your way in and figure out how to be a contributing member of society, fucking A, we want someone like that. Because the people here who are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care about anything. And they just consume. They don't care about innovation or pulling back and saving money or saving their self so they don't, cause harm to somebody else in body, mind, or spirit. So, yeah, a lot of people take shit for granted and they become a blight on society. And so you have the choice. You have the choice. I mean, I don't want to read everything that I have on here. I really don't. You can read it. But I would stay out of people's health issues. Realize you're in a very different world. And you invite your own karma, especially when you get involved with people's health issues. Demonizing the government. Yeah, the jade juice woke up people's immune systems. And they survived. I mean, the lady that was on Dr. Phil, she survived a heart attack and stroke that she already had within. She already had those blood clots in. It was just a matter of time before something activated it. And if it wasn't me, it would be something else that would activate it, Or she would die or she would have died, in 2019. And so, yeah, Yeah. Social media is how to be. Yeah. And I'll tell you, man, be very careful cultivating relationships with people. Whenever you accept gifts, whenever you give gifts, you're buying and selling people and whatever you want from them. So if you're going to buy somebody, I hope you can afford what they have to offer. And if you're going to receive a gift, I hope you're prepared to pay that gift back in some way, in body, mind, and spirit. So be very careful out there. There's so many ways people buy and sell each other. And yeah, many unkind people in this world. Very, very many unkind. So I just stay on my own. And I watch my Netflix series. I write what I write. But I do see a lot of hypocrisy out there, which is great. But if you're going to condemn anyone and say that you're kind and somebody else is not kind, then you better look at what you do to people that you don't like or agree with. You better look at the scriptural darts you throw at your friends and family that don't believe what you believe. Better look at how you've reacted to the New World Order or pagan Christians. And when you say, well, I'm not wrathful, and you're throwing scriptural darts at people, that's as wrathful as it gets. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Yeah. People who say that are dying actively. They've formed weapons against themselves and they're not prospering. Okay? Hawk to a girl, she is the harbinger of doom in our society. And I had to post about the P. Diddy freak-offs because that's exactly what happens to people's bodies and what they subject their daughters and sons into when they say they should get married to have a bunch of kids. Because you don't know people's backgrounds, you don't know their lifestyle, belief systems, you don't know what kind of sexual craziness they have cultivated from watching porn, or their buddies are like, yeah, you should do this and that. Yeah. And it'll take a strong woman to break their husband from trying to destroy her through his sexual habits. Some women are not strong enough and they will be destroyed. And then when their body starts breaking down and they break down, then the husband or the wife divorces them. And that's how women get destroyed through marriage or by having a bunch of sexual partners. Or the husband breaks down because he's giving off so much and she wants so much. I mean, it can happen on either end. But yeah, world's kind of a crazy place. So I just stay on my own. I don't play the game of being sociable. What's the point? What are you going to do? People don't know how to talk to you. Except for what? Gossip or the weather. And you can't talk politics. You can't talk religion. You can't even talk science to people. So what do you talk about? Other people. Well, when that gets boring, then what are you doing? You're trying to fit in. You want to have fun. I'm done. I'm done with that. So anyways, there are two sides of this world. And who are the representation of immortality for men? Methuselah and Noah. For women, you have to break your own ground, assuming you even have the capacity to do that. Assuming you're not enslaved by your friends, family, husbands, wives, and whatever else. So women are going to have to break the ground to figure out if they will be the representation of immortality, which means they have to fight not worshiping a male or a son, because that's how women have been depicted, as Mary, Mother of God, or some wife worshiping her husband, kissing his feet, doing his bidding, with no mind of her own. We'll see. All right, bye.